into negotiations with Donald Trump by offering him proof that Russia didn't hack the DNC in return for a presidential pardon. The whistleblower says he can provide definitive proof that the entire Russian collusion narrative is false, but he will only do so in exchange for his own freedom. Despite Assange's offer to end the fake Russian hacking scandal once and for all, it appears as though operatives working within the U.S. government are blocking the information from getting to the president. During a recent press conference, reporters asked Mr. Trump if he was considering Assange's offer, to which he responded saying he has never heard about the deal. According to reports, aides working in the White House are blocking the information from getting to Trump out of fear that the truth will finally be exposed. PJ Media reports, Representative Dana Rohrabacher, Republican California, told the Daily Caller that Trump is being blocked from knowing about the potential deal with Assange. I think the president's answer indicates that there is a wall around him that is being created by people who do not want to expose this fraud, that there was collusion between our intelligence community and the leaders of the Democratic Party, Rohrabacher said. The congressman spoke to the Chief of Staff John Kelly 2 weeks ago about the potential deal with Assange, the Daily Caller reported. The Wall Street Journal reported that Kelly told Rohrabacher to bring the information to the intelligence community. This would have to be a cooperative effort between his own staff and the leadership in the intelligence communities to try to prevent the president from making the decision as to whether or not he wants to take the steps necessary to expose this horrendous lie that was shoved down the American people's throats so incredibly earlier this year, Rohrabacher said. Rohrabacher called the collusion narrative a massive propaganda campaign in historic job meant to conceal the ideological conspiracy between the intelligence community and the Democrat Party. According to The Independent, Julian Assange will be arrested if he leaves the Ecuadorian embassy despite Sweden dropping its sexual assault investigation, British police have confirmed. A spokesperson for the Metropolitan Police said that despite Sweden's European arrest warrant for the WikiLeaks founder being lifted, he was under a separate warrant for skipping bail. Westminster Magistrates Court issued a warrant for the arrest of Julian Assange following him failing to surrender to the court on June 29, 2012, a statement said. The Metropolitan Police Service is obliged to execute that warrant should he leave the embassy. As the Swedish investigation continued in December 2010, Mr. Assange was jailed in Wandsworth Prison in isolation for 10 days and then put under house arrest for 550 days under powers granted by an international arrest warrant. Scotland Yard stood down the 24/7 police presence outside the Ecuadorian embassy building in 2015 but pledged to make every effort to arrest Mr. Assange if he left. There had been controversy over the escalating cost of the exercise, which was believed to be over £12 million. The Met said its response reflected the serious nature of the original accusations, suggesting it would now scale down its efforts. Now that the situation has changed and the Swedish authorities have discontinued their investigation into that matter, Mr. Assange remains wanted for a much less serious offense, a spokesperson said. The MPS will provide a level of resourcing which is proportionate to that offense. The MPS will not comment further on the operational plan. The Australian activist sought asylum in the Ecuadorian embassy while on bail in 2012, over fears the Swedish investigation would result in him being extradited to the U.S. over leaked military documents and diplomatic cables. Prosecutors dropped the probe after Chief Prosecutor Marianne N.Y. said there were no further avenues to pursue to take the investigation forward. In a court document seen by Reuters. Mr. Assange reacted to the news by tweeting a photo of himself smiling inside the Ecuadorian embassy, where he has been living for almost 5 years. The Ecuadorian government had sent Sweden a letter saying there had been a serious failure by the prosecutor, including a lack of initiative to complete inquiries. The UN had called on Swedish and British authorities to free Mr. Assange from arbitrary detention in a report released last year, with the UK failing to overturn the findings on appeal. Now that all appeals are exhausted, I expect that the UK and Sweden will comply with their international obligations and set me free, Mr. Assange said following the ruling. It is an obvious and grotesque injustice to detain someone for 6 years who hasn't even
together like everybody. So there are some links on my blog to other people that are also putting the breadcrumbs together, and they're excellent. And so here's my take. So last night they shut out Julian Assange's account. And they shut down some back account that I never even knew he had. I thought he only had the one. So, of course, I went after Twitter, on Twitter, and then I typed up a motion, which I'm still going to put into court to protect all of us and our rights and to take away what you do. It's a motion to rescind the illicit Twitter order because it doesn't comply with USA law. Okay, so once Julian's account came back today, I didn't recognize it because Julian used to only follow one person, which was WikiLeaks. And when the account came back, the viewership, his followers were not showing, and then it was showing 25 followers. So I believed that that was not his account, except that I was wrong. That was a breadcrumb. So what happened is when I got back from being with my family and dinner, I went and looked at his account, and I wanted to see who he followed, to see what happened. And also his 600,000 followers were back. And so here's who he's following: the UN. What is the UN? The pedophile capital and the guts of the pedophile ring all over the globe. And they call it the UN, but it's just like the slush funds of the Democrats. It's not what it says it is. The UN is like the pretend thing they make themselves look like. Well, inside of that, they're all involved in Planned Parenthood, sex trafficking, child trafficking, and all of the drugs and every dirty thing that the elite money buys. Now, the next breadcrumb is that we pulled out, not we United States, Trump and Nikki Haley pulled out $285 million. That's massive. Then there was another breadcrumb where it linked to Julian Assange, and there were some things that he put on there talking about the UN on his tweets. And then to follow the UN when he's the biggest truth teller in the whole planet, he probably has every single name of every single ringleader and pedo in the UN, which is about to be revealed. And they broke into the legal office of his lawyers, probably trying to get the names, but they're not even smart enough to figure out how many people that WikiLeaks would have given them to as a backup in case anything like this happened. Now, I could be wrong, everybody, and I've been wrong, but that's what it looks like to me. And people, again, don't get that it's over. And the other thing I want people to understand is that there are people that have known about this and been trying to come forward. My guess is they even gave more information to Julian at this point. And therefore, he has enough to come forward and spill it and just put it all out there. And there's absolutely no way in my mind that Julian Assange would ever stay following pedophiles. I believe that's a breadcrumb to let us know what they're doing and where they're at, and then when it's all done, they will be unfollowed and he will go back to whoever else he's either uncovering or real people that he wants to follow. But when you have a job like I do and Julian and these other channels, we don't get to have a lot of friends because you have to do the job and you can't get distracted and you can't have people sidetrack you. And since you don't know who is who, you have very few people that you can email and that you can trust, because you're giving away things that they can come and spy on you. So you just have to keep working and have the people that understand that are wide awake help and support you and respect you and not ask for things, because it's impossible to do. You endanger them, you endanger yourself, and I know exactly how he feels. But let me tell you something about Julian Assange sitting on the top pedestal. He knows exactly who everybody is, even if he hasn't met them. He has the bird's eye view of who's bad and who's good. And one other thing about the tweet on his account, it had a Santa and a naughty and nice list, and then the UN. So again, all I did is deduce, and I think that's what it is. I don't know. And we'll have to wait and see. Thank you. So Merry Christmas, everybody. Woo. Okay, let's talk about things that have been happening today. I had a beautiful day with family and friends, and it was amazing to get away for a few hours. People who wish I could have a day off, yes, that's a great wish. Not quite yet. Julian Assange and many people that have discovered the secrets of government have had to pay the types of prices that we're looking at. And some of them never even got to live as long as Julian Assange has. The most dangerous job you can ever have is to understand and learn what your government is up to. And when I learned what our government was up to, they tried to kill me. And they have done this to many. Under the Obama government, the Bush, and the Clinton government, when they were all in charge, they were committing so many heinous crimes that we're probably going to take 5 more generations to recover from what they tried to do to this world. And that being said, all the people that tried to tell have had to be in body bags. And even the people that tried to go to court to right the wrongs of these people never ever got to make it. And people should not fear their government, but we have had to fear our government because they have been on the take and running criminal enterprises with our money for a very long time. And this is about to change, and that is what the video, the final takedown, was. It was the executive orders that went in place to end their crimes. Now, people have said to me, is this New World Order? Is this, what are they doing? Well, first of all, no. A president has the power to do what saves the United States. That's his job. And when people are conspiring and criminal and entering to try to overtake our government, he has the presidential power to enforce his authority. So no, it's not New World Order. But those people that are criminals are not using the Constitution, and they're committing crimes so heinous with the Rothschilds and all the big bankers, and they've been in it and at it forever, leaving all of us no other choice, and many have committed suicide, starved, and died at the hands of people who consider themselves to be elite and entitled to our wealth, and they are not. So many comments, people do not understand, and they don't know enough about the law to put into perspective what's happening as we recollect our right to have the government work for us instead of the government be the predator, stealing from us, harming us, and taking everything that we ever worked for. And there's no other way to do that when they've committed crimes to this level and involved other countries and other people and gangs and pedophile rings and sex trafficking rings. There's only one way to break it, and you've got to cut through the middle and then break it down from the top. And that is what the final takedown was about. Those orders allow for the seizure of the criminally obtained illicit wealth that they got from everything they stole from us while selling us medicine, drugs, weapons, then trying to seize them and profit from them and keep us sick, ill, hospitalized, declare us mentally ill if we tried to talk, or kill us. So, everybody, the whole world is awake because of Julian Assange, but he has paid one of the highest prices of a survivor that anyone I know, because most of the other people that have tried haven't ever lived. Had he ever been located inside the USA, he would never still be here. And what we have to do is create a government that we don't have to fear, and that's as transparent as the Trump administration, so that we know what's going on. And if mainstream media was doing its job, we wouldn't even be having to have channels, because it would be being reported. We the truth tellers, and we the people that give me all the links, are the ones that have the truth. And there's hope and prayer that someday that will balance itself out. But in the meantime, it's us, we the people, and the team. And as I stated in my final takedown video, we all have the same role. It might be my face in the foreground because I already had the channel, but every single person is equal to me. And we are all that important. All the people that have blogs, all the people that know, and all the people that are sharing and spreading this and sharing our videos, the blogs, the links, the articles, your role is equal. And we could never, ever survive without each other. And that is how our world is supposed to be. We were supposed to be bonded and unified and live in harmony and peace, and not in competition, and not leaving people out, and not discriminating and harassing. There was once upon a time where you could walk down the street and every single person felt the same, and they felt equal. And we are bringing that back through.
Now, after releasing emails that led to DNC chairwoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz stepping down from her controversial role in undermining the Sanders presidential campaign, Julian Assange is now preparing to release more leaked emails, and this time he says they will, quote, provide enough evidence to indict Hillary Clinton. Assange also made it clear there is no evidence of Russian involvement in the email hack, despite the Clinton campaign's claims. For details on this story, we go now to Laura Smith in the UK.
Julian Assange, the founder of WikiLeaks, of course, is still holed up in the Ecuadorian embassy here in London. But once again, he's proven that he's not just sitting there twiddling his thumbs. Not content with releasing 20,000 emails from the Democratic National Committee, Assange now says he'll be releasing more material that he says will provide enough evidence to see Hillary Clinton arrested. He's given a series of interviews in which he says that there's no proof whatsoever that the emails that he's already released came from Russian sources. He says that the DNC servers were ripe for hacking, that they're riddled with holes, and that documents hacked over a number of years are out there in the public domain in multiple copies. He says when the Clinton campaign talks about having proof that the emails were hacked by Russians, he says, I don't know what they're talking about, but they're not talking about my leak. In fact, he's quite coy about the whole thing. Of course, WikiLeaks likes to create maximum ambiguity about where its information comes from. It's very hot on the protection of sources. And he said maybe one day our source or sources will step forward and some people will have egg on their faces, or read into that what you will. Of course, he's at pains to say that it's not important where the emails come from. What's important is what's in them. And what we have now, he says, is the Clinton campaign using information about past hacks to divert attention away from what's actually in those emails. But that this diversionary tactic itself raises questions. Clinton here is presented with a political scandal, and what she does is blame the Russians, blame the Chinese, according to Assange. And if she does that in government, he says that's a style that could cause serious conflict. What of the content of those emails, though? Well, the leaks, of course, rocked the beginning of the DNC and brought about the ouster of its chairwoman. What they do, Assange says, is show collusion at the very top of the Democratic Party to get rid of Bernie Sanders. He argues that Clinton, of course, may have won the nomination anyway, but now it's impossible to know, so that her nomination de facto has no political legitimacy. WikiLeaks, as Assange said, is set to release further emails, and it's clear that he thinks these could be the nail in Hillary Clinton's coffin.
You mentioned Hillary Clinton, who's now the Democratic candidate for the presidency. You've been taking an interest, I understand, in the whole issue of the email she sent using her private server. Do you have any of the undisclosed emails?
Well, taking interest, I think, is putting it mildly. We've published 32,000 of them in some analysis. We have upcoming leaks in relation to Hillary Clinton, which is great. We actually have WikiLeaks has a very big year ahead.
But some of the ones that have not yet come into the public domain, you are planning to put out.
We have emails related to Hillary Clinton, which are pending publication. That is correct. But
what about the FBI investigation? What about the FBI investigation itself? Where do you think that will end up?
Well, unfortunately, I think what's going to happen is that the FBI is going to go, we have accumulated a lot of material about Hillary Clinton. We could proceed to an indictment, but if you've got Loretta Lynch as the DOJ, head of the DOJ in the United States, appointed by Obama, Loretta Lynch is the person in charge of our case, she's not going to indict Hillary Clinton. That's not possible that could happen. But the FBI can push for concessions from the new Clinton government in exchange for its lack of indictment. But there's very strong material, both in the emails and in relation to the Clinton Foundation. For example, we published an email where Hillary Clinton is instructing her staff to remove the classified header of a classified document and send it by non-classified fax. So that just requires one more thing, which is to show that the document was actually sent. But she instructed her staff to violate those classification procedures in the United States. Of course, I think personally a lot of these procedures are ridiculous, but Hillary Clinton has been pushing to prosecute others, and so has Barack Obama, who violate technically these procedures.
Very briefly, I mean, plainly what you are saying and what you've been publishing hurts Hillary Clinton. Would you prefer Trump to be president?
Well, I think Trump is a completely unpredictable phenomenon. You can't predict what he would do in office. You can predict a bit more what the Republican Party would do in office. From my personal perspective, well, you know, the emails we published show that Hillary Clinton is receiving constant updates about my personal situation. She has pushed for the prosecution of WikiLeaks, which is still in train. So we do see her as a bit of a problem for freedom of the press more generally. In relation to wars, the emails we revealed about her involvement in Libya and statements by Pentagon generals show that Hillary was overriding the Pentagon's reluctance to overthrow Muammar Gaddafi, because they predicted that the post-war outcome would be something like what it is, which is ISIS taking over the country. It's Hillary who was the leading champion in office to do that. She has a long history of being a liberal war hawk, and we presume that she's going to proceed.
I'm really sorry, Mr. Assange, but I'm being told we're out of time. But it's been a pleasure talking to you, and hope to speak to you again.
Thank you.
All the best. Thank you.
And Julian, your reaction to the announced resignation of Debbie Wasserman Schultz shortly after the release of these emails?
I guess there's a question, what does that mean for the US Democratic Party? It is important for there to be examples of accountability. The resignation was an example of that. Now, of course, Hillary Clinton has tried to immediately produce a counterexample by putting out a statement within hours saying that Debbie Wasserman Schultz is a great friend and she's incorporating her into her campaign. She's going to be pushing for her re-election to the Congress. So that's a very interesting signaling by Hillary Clinton that if you act in a corrupt way that benefits Hillary Clinton, you'll be taken care of. Why does she need to put that out? Certainly it's not a signal that helps for the public at all. It's not a signal that helps with unity at the DNC, at the convention. It's a signal to Hillary Clinton partisans to keep on going on, you'll be taken care of. But it's a very destructive signal for a future presidency, because it's expanding the Overton window of corruption. It doesn't really matter what you do, how you behave, as long as that is going to benefit Hillary Clinton, you'll be protected.